Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tacobout It Tuesday with This is Improv. My name is Angelica Zadak, and as our guest today, we have Jeff Griffith. How are you doing, Jeff?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Doing great. Going with the flow and trying to make it happen.
That's good. That's a very summery vibe, going with the flow, just making it happen. I like it.
Glad to be here and look forward to it. We're going to have some fun today.
I look forward to it too. And what can you tell us about yourself? If you were to explain yourself, what would you say to the audiences?
Well, I would say, first of all, I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up right out of Boston.
Uh-huh.
And basically, sports has always been part of my life.
Oh, wow.
And, through high school, through college, I was lucky enough to play a sport in college. And then after college, went into the business world and got in a couple of jobs. And I just found out it just wasn't my cup of tea. Decided to go back to graduate school. And I ended up going to a school in Florida, Barry University. One of the reasons I chose out of state was because I was having a hard time getting into the sports business up in the New England area. It was very, old school, not a lot of turnover. And I came down here and it had basically, outside of the Dolphins, it had every franchise was new, looking for some help. And so I came down and almost in the first day, I landed an internship with the Florida Panthers. Which reason being too is I played hockey in college and I had a business background and they didn't have anyone on the business side that actually played hockey.
The perks of being from the Northeast.
Yeah. So, it helped that time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the owner of the time was Mr. Huizinga. And, he owned the Marlins, the Panthers, and the Dolphins. And so I ended up working with all, three franchises, like on a limited basis and all that. And then a full-time job came up with the Dolphins, and that's how I landed the job. And I was there for 25 years before I started freelancing.
That's incredible to be able to have the opportunity to, that's what you were looking for, just one place, but you ended up getting all this experience in all these different places. And
absolutely.
Every sport, not just the sport, all the sports, which is pretty cool. How would you describe the starting period, the actual going out and looking for that work? Like, is there something that I guess it's hard for a lot of people, right? Because they have this passion like you have, and they have this focus of, this is what I want to do. So do you have any advice, or is there something that you did to keep yourself going in the beginning?
Yes. Well, it actually, what sparked the whole production aspect is when I was in college. And this is well before like cell phones, and I'm being honest. I mean, This is late 80s, early 90s. And a woman who worked out of a sports channel, which was an old broadcast cable channel in Connecticut. She was an intern there, and she was looking to establish her name. And she came to our college and said, can I start making some highlight tapes of the team? And I was so fascinated by that. And so because of her, I decided to learn in that. And there was no major at my college for, film at the time, or, video or anything like that. It was communications considered, marketing and all that. And so on my own, I started learning, the production aspect. And it's not as easy as it is to learn it today, even though it's more, there's more things to learn now. But at the same time, it wasn't, it wasn't like I could Google. There was no Google back then.
Everything was hands-on.
Exactly. And so because of that, but then I went in, like I said, I had a couple of, I would call them real world business jobs. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't, like making me excited or motivating me or anything like that. That's when I decided to go back to grad school. And then when I landed in sports, there was no in-house production.
Mhm.
And so I did a bit, I did anything. I never said no. You want me to sell tickets? I'll sell tickets. Do you
Mhm.
want me to have promotions? I'll do promotions. A fan club, do that. And then literally one day, there was an announcement of NFL Network starting their own channel. And I
Wow.
was with the Dolphins at the time, and I said, I wrote up a business plan saying the Dolphins should have their own channel on a
Mhm.
cable. And so I submitted the business plan to our president at the time, Brian Wiedmeyer. And after a few weeks of going back and forth, he goes, I love it. Let's do it. I was like, hey, who do you want to hire for this? He goes, no, you're the person for it. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I have the experience to do this. And his exact words were, we'll learn together. And
Wow.
so it was, it gives me chills to this day
Yeah,
where some
I felt it.
obviously not only has you know, he believed in me, but
Yeah.
he also had foresight to see this is going to be what franchises are going to be doing, not just in football, but across the board. And we were one of the first teams to have like a broadcast department that I was fortunate enough to start. And and then we started from the ground up.
That's incredible. And there are so many aspects to that start story, the beginning of the journey story, that are just incredible. First of all, working yourself from the ground up. And that's the traditional, that's the way that it was done for so long. Like the mentality of like, let me start in the mailroom. Let me start from the bottom. Anything to be in the space that I want to be in. And I feel like that's such an important thing because sometimes we get so lost. Like, I need to be there right now. This is my job today. And it's so much more than that. It's playing with the team. It's playing with like being a member of the team before you get improving yourself before you get to that point. And also innovating, because you're right, it wasn't, people didn't know about this, the media production, and you were a part of that driving force. You created this and had to teach yourself. You self-taught and found that thing. It's so cool to hear your story about how it all began, because just imagining, still today there are people who hold back on the media production. And just just to hear how that came to be and how you started it is incredible.
Right? And I mean, and the technology has changed so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, for the name of your podcast, basically the Improv, that is to me production, because you can have, and you go into a stylized shoot. You have storyboards, you have treatments, you have a script, you have a shot list, you have all this. And then as soon as you're in the middle of it, you could see something different and you got to change on a dime. You got to be very flexible. Or you're dealing with a client and the client says, you know what, I don't really, I'm not really feeling this. I would rather do this. And you know what? And as long as, it's not going to hinder anything, you have to make that change.
Hmm.
And then you're going with it. And I see that's where things were more structured in the earlier days.
Hmm.
Now it's very more flexible and even keel, and you kind of go with, like, there's no right or wrong sometimes. It's
Yeah.
like, you know what, feeling that, let's go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like with little media things we have in our hands, phones, like
Oh
anything is
yeah.
possible. And micro technology makes it really cool.
Well, in a funny story with technology where we helped, there was a couple of folks in the Dolphins that started the website. Then I jumped in, you know, kind of like not an early adapter. I jumped in a little later, but it helped start, the actual site.
Uh-huh.
And we bought a digital camera.
Uh-huh.
So we were the first professional franchise to buy a digital camera, which was
No way.
four megapixels. So your phone is probably 14 to 16 megapixels. So that gives you an idea how low this was.
Uh-huh.
And the cost of that camera was $25,000.
What?
And so now you can buy that same camera for, probably $500.
Yeah.
And and that was the shoot. And we in this, the internet speed was so slow, we were able to upload 4 pictures during a game.
Wow.
So a game is 3.5 hours. We were able to basically do one a quarter, and again, that's not 100 years ago.
No.
That was late 90s.
Yeah. I was there.
Yeah. And so, but between the technology and again, and you just kind of, photography, same thing, video production, hey, I need to get some shots of Dan Marino. Well, all of a sudden there's, a coach, or there was a player who's, just performing so much, you got to get some shots of him too. And then you have to shift your focus a little bit. Bad example, because very rarely you have to shift off Dan Marino, but as in, but that's some of the things that, again, you're being flexible, and, you go with the whole, because what we're basically doing is we're telling stories, and you'll see now on social, they post, all right, tell me you're a drone pilot without telling me you're a drone pilot.
Right. The TikTok stuff. Yeah.
And then, but that's how it all started. You're basically saying, we want to put people we want to tell a story to make it seem like you're physically there. So you're on the bench with the Dolphins, or you're on the field with the, or you're on the ice with the Panthers, whatever it was, and not just sports, but anything. And that's what it's turned into.
And so you have all these stories of, you produce stories, but you have your own stories. What is one of your favorite stories from these years? Having to change on a dime, being caught with something unusual. What's your favorite story from the industry?
You never know where an idea is going to come from. And so we were on a calendar shoot with the Miami Dolphins cheerleaders, and I don't even remember. I think we were down in the Dominican Republic. Before we left, I have 2 young boys at the time, so this is probably going back 10 years. So they're very young. And they go, Dad, are you going to make a music video? I'm like, no, we're just, doing this, and that. And they go, well, maybe you should. This Justin Bieber is really it's really taking off with this new up and coming, singer Carly Rae Jepsen, this, that, the other thing. And so literally on the plane down to the DR, we started watching this, and I'm like, all right, it wasn't just her music video for Call Me Maybe, it was like how he made a video about it. And then that went viral, and then other teams like the Harvard women's swim team, I believe it was, they did their version and all that. Well, we ended up making that version, and it had 30 million views on it. And all because 2 young boys watched a video with Justin Bieber and said, we should try doing something like that. And so it's like, to me, where you never know where your ideas are going to come from, and you shouldn't take pride in authorship. It's more like you want the best content out there. And, and so like, hey, that was one of those lightning in a bottle, you move on. But, like when you're filming on the sidelines or anything like that, when you can anticipate a play happening, that's a great feeling. Or if you're in a control room and like you're playing the right music, or you have the right replay, and you can, and a coach challenges the call because you showed that replay and you win, you feel like you're helping the team win. Like those are moments. All those collectively are very special.
That's such a cool way of putting it. So you're helping the team win because you're providing a face for them. It's a kind of interesting way to look at it that I didn't think about before. But you're helping them win. You're helping their face get out there. You're helping people know that they made these plays or that this happened. You're telling their story, like you said before. And that's such a cool, wow. I never thought of that.
And I would say one game changer for us is when we were on Hard Knocks. Being on Hard Knocks was a that was the biggest production that we've been a part of. I
Mhm.
mean, it was over 100 people involved, and it's for 5 shows.
Mhm.
And so 5 hour shows, over 100 people. But the fascinating part of it is how well organized they were. You know, they had storylines, they changed it, but how quickly they turned it around. I mean, it was times where it's supposed to air. I believe it was like Tuesday at 9 o'clock. The exact day and time escapes me, but it's like final edits are going through up until like 8 p.m. You know, before they're like, if we don't send it now, we're not making air. And this is going on HBO to millions of people. And
No
so, but
pressure.
like,
No pressure at
yeah.
all.
And we weren't even in charge. NFL Films was in charge, but we were a big part of it. We were helping, and it was, just learning and collaborating. It was phenomenal. That was a game changer for me.
And we've talked about this. You talked about this. You brought it up. How would you say, in a nutshell, how have you used improv while doing your media production, while creating these stories? You've mentioned it a few times, but how would you say in a nutshell?
Flexibility. I think that is the biggest thing because, like I said, you can have a plan. It could be a perfect plan. It doesn't mean it's not going to change on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean it wasn't a perfect plan, but you know what? Something came up and you had to adjust and you had to shift and you had to be very nimble. And I that to me is where production and improv coincide perfectly, where it's unscripted, and it's reality TV to its truest form of reality. Not, hey, we'll kind of spark the audience if you can kind of say something like this, where it's, yes, it's considered reality TV, but it really wasn't. That is improv.
Again, you said it throughout the interview how you improvised essentially, and it's so fascinating to think, especially because you were innovating. You were literally creating things that didn't exist before, and it's amazing how you were able to just create and just go with and make things happen. And sometimes we think a plan is all that's the means of success, but sometimes it's not, and you're proof of that, and it's incredible.
And it helps though when you have a great crew
Mm-hmm.
and your staff and everyone's aligned
Oh yeah.
and everyone's able to adjust without
Mm-hmm.
raising their hand, questioning it, saying why this isn't part of the plan. And it's just like we're just going with it. Again, you're trying to make the best content.
Yeah.
And then again, when I started, now it's basically 3 or 4 or 5 different departments because it was game presentation, it was broadcast, it was social, it was video content, it was radio, and that was but now it's all split into different for the better, because it's gotten so big and it's gotten so time consuming and critical
Mm-hmm.
that you need to be specialized. And it doesn't mean you can't do different things,
Right.
but again, you're like, all right, and you have to think for, instead of just recording something and saying, you know what, this is going to YouTube. No, like a lot of this time, it's not like that. Okay, we need crisp audio because it's going on to a podcast or a radio. We need great video because we want it to be on YouTube. We need short clips because we want to put it on, Instagram. And so you have all these different formats and platforms, but we have to go at least 22 minutes if we want to put it on broadcast TV. So there's so many different things, and if that's where the plan comes in. But again, you know what, hey, we think this clip would be best on Instagram, and then after the show, that's not the best clip, this is, and let's amplify that and let's go with that type of thing.
That's awesome.
And so
Back picture.
sorry to be long-winded.
No, it's all immensely interesting. And yes, I could listen to this for hours because, like you said, it's all these different departments and everything takes, its own time, and it's become specialized. And it's immensely interesting. And I want to say thank you, Jeff, for giving me this interesting information. I'm honestly fascinated because I was there when things started and I've seen the evolution of how things have gone, and it's been awesome. I've come to the time, and we've come to the time of a very important question. It's a very hard question. It's very tough. And I'm sorry that I have to lay this one on you, but we've talked about putting the best components forward to create a product. And the question I have for you is, what would be the best components to construct the ideal taco?
Oh,
I know. It's terrifying.
I mean, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because do you go with the mainstay of pork or chicken or beef or seafood?
Exactly.
So you have those components there. So you got to start with I'm going to start on the inside, and we're going to go out. So on the inside, I'm going to go crazy here.
Okay.
We're going to go with a burnt end.
Burnt end?
Which is a specialized brisket.
Okay.
Where you have to take you take a part of the brisket and you have to double, triple cook it, and it's very tender. And we're going to slice that up. We're going to start with the burnt end.
Slicing them.
And then we're going to have some guacamole, because if we didn't, my wife would kill me. And then we're going to have, you know what? I don't want lettuce. I'd like a little like slaw. Little coleslaw to go with this.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put a little pico in there.
Ooh.
And then we're gonna go with a special. We're gonna start with a soft taco on the outside, corn, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're gonna fry one and make it like a puffy. Nice. So you have a puffy taco with a soft shell inside, with a burnt end, with coleslaw, with pico. And guac.
Whoa, that is an intense taco.
That's all I got. You asked a hard-hitting question. I gotta go with a
with a
great answer.
You took it in stride. Thank you. Thanks for that. That is an intense taco. I love it. Thank you for creating the taco. Thank you for the interview. Is there anything that you have coming up that you want to talk to us about?
No, I mean, hey, I just started new adventures where I have my own production company, and I'll be out and about, and hey, no job is too small or too big, and so I am available, whether it's directing, technical directing, producing, filming, editing, whatever we need, we're here. One-stop shop.
Awesome. The best kind of job. My favorite job is a one-stop shop. And what is the name of your production company?
It took a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Almost as much time as me describing the taco.
Uh-huh.
But it's called Jeff Griffith Productions.
Wow, so easy to find. And
in fairness, though, I said after 25 years of doing it, I go, people do know me by name that I've worked with. So I wanted to kind of capitalize on that instead of having a nice, fancy, creative name where they're like, well, we don't, that sounds cool, but who's actually doing it, type of thing.
Exactly. I mean, you have all this experience. People know you. It's out there already. Why not just put the company behind the name?
There you go.
And where can they find you to take part in your knowledge, your skills, your production?
Well, big thing would be Instagram. Going to start building a website. Haven't gotten to that yet. And, we're on Facebook, obviously. But a lot of it's under my own personal name, but that's why it matches. And but we'll be building as we go. We're going to improv on that too.
Oh, great. Improvisation. Everyone join in with us in improving our way over to Jeff Griffith. And
there you go.
Check him out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this interview. It's been absolutely amazing. Honestly, I've learned so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. So thank you so much.
Well, and pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for listening in on all this incredible information. We got a little glimpse into the sports world of production in South Florida too, which was great. And my name is Angelica Zadak. You have been watching Talk About It Tuesday with This is Improv. While you're around, make sure to check out our website as well, thisisimprov.com, where we have classes for groups, we have classes for business, and we have classes for your life if you need some communication and fun talking skills. So we can have an awesome conversation just like this one. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and goodbye.